think that's where they became more interesting. Pero right now, I think the run up as compared to mid of this year, mas exciting nun, mas mataas yung movement nun. And now, I've seen them consolidate a bit. May volatility pa rin, but it wasn't as exciting as the middle of the year. Mas exciting yung Philippine stocks at November 2020 as compared to US stocks ng June, July, August naman. So I think it's shifting and in the same way also foreign stocks were out of the Philippines and majority of the funds were in the US at that time, and ngayon also they've shifted back
kind of coming back, so the money flow is here.
So something like that, yeah.
Interesting. So you're back in the Philippines or focusing on
sabay naman the funds for Philippines stays in the Philippines, funds in the US stays there naman. So they don't mix.
Okay. Cool. How is
okay. So yun, ganun lang. That's my style lang. And then what I do lang talaga is I try to segregate it. What's supposed to be for investing is just for investing. And then even if maganda yung market pero nagamit ko na lahat ng pang-investing ko, I don't add anymore if that cash that's there is not for investing. That's why I can take on more risk also. Ganun lang yung style. I don't just look at it kasi from a stock market standpoint. It's from also allocating your portfolio properly. I think that's what a lot of people miss out kasi you can get a lot of gains but if you don't allocate it properly, sometimes 100%, but what part of your portfolio is exposed there? And in the same way also, if you drop a certain number and then you don't allocate it properly, meaning that could deeply hit your portfolio, sayang din. And that's what I think gives an easiness to people to invest. Pero okay lang, we're not here for this. We're here for your farming business na nagpasobrang yaman sa'yo.
No, not at all. I'm still working very hard every day.
Okay, so what's happening? When we were talking about offline, you said that the biggest problem with farmers right now is there's too much people in the middle also that they don't get to they sell it at a very, very cheap price, and then later on when it goes to the end consumer, medyo mahal na rin siya, and sayang because the person that did a lot of the hard work, hindi sila nakinabang doon. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Okay. So I started knowing more about the agricultural space in May 5 when we started operating FarmFetch. Before that, my background was really to try to understand organic farming, the plight of the farmers through my sister who started organic farming in 2012, and then started actually harvesting by 2014 because she had to improve the land first. So there's this idea of regenerative farming. It's actually going back to our roots in how we farm, not dependent on artificial inputs and all of these things. But of course, food security is the most important. And so food security has to be assured. It cannot be assured just by organic farming, but I do think that should be moving forward the future of farming. So for our operations, what we try to be is really an efficient supply chain. And so the problem in the Philippines is that 70% of the produce comes from Benguet. There are other efforts to improve yield in certain other regions that are closer to Metro Manila. There's also urban farming that's being promoted by the Department of Agriculture already. And so the average age of the farmer is around 55 to 65, something like that. This is the most important problem in the Philippines that we have to address because it involves food security and nutrition for the populace and employment and quality of life. So this is the reason why we focused on this, on trying to find solutions for this problem. So what happens to your produce when you get it from the supermarket is there's a lot of markup from the point that it comes from the farmer, travels through from wherever it's from, through several traders. Maybe around 6 to 7 is the average now.
Oh, bakit 6 to 7 pala? How does that? Why does it become that way? Why not parang someone who has a lot of money? I'll just take care of everything na lang. Kasi I don't know.
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, I think there's just a lot of the distribution network is really fragmented.
Mm.
And so it also provides a lot of employment opportunities for a lot of
Mm.
Filipinos that could only rely on that or have begun to rely on that and um, uh, not other businesses. So um, the way we see it, we think that to be able to make things more sustainable, more viable, you have to be able to create a supply chain that where stakeholders put value in each step, and that's why we don't support having too many traders, um, but we do support just making logistics more efficient by, let's say, having one trader in between, because let's say they provide the logistics. Now, meanwhile, you can work on helping the community be able to afford their own logistics so that they could actually go direct to consumer. That's another way. But of course, this process will take a long time because uh, farmers in general don't really have access to a lot of opportunities and capabilities even. So
Mm.
one thing that I learned, I worked in development when I consulted for Leyte since 2017, and I realized that the root of poverty in the Philippines is because we don't have access to um, nutritious food. When you don't have access to nutritious food, the cognitive capacities of people are diminished. And
Mm.
so when those are diminished, then as they grow older, they'll probably have a harder time to be able to teach themselves, to learn new skills, and to be able to get themselves out of poverty. And at the same time, we deal with certain issues such as um, health diseases, overpopulation, and so and this has led me to kind of this has led me to try to provide a solution wherein if we are able to provide proper nutrition for our people, they are able to live a healthier life. By healthier, it actually covers. It's not just you know free from disease, but it's also having a good life. It's also being able to do just have rights to education or a physique, healthy physique. Um, so there's eight sectors of wellness, right? So you have to take care of livelihood, you have to take care of intellect, you have to take care of spiritual and all of these things, right? And so um, what we realized is that if you rehab people, if you help people get to that point of wellness, a better minimum quality of life, really, then they're able to become more productive individuals. And so in the Philippines, we think that to be able to alleviate the poverty that the country is mired in, and just a low level of education, it's really to be able to give nutrition and give them access to education, but in a long-term program. So, for example, for FarmFetch, what we try to do is to be able to give increased income for our farmers, and so they're also able to afford their own produce, and then we also give them access to books, because in a lot of development programs are able to provide increased income for livelihood, but over time, what happens is, for example, they're not healthy enough to be able to move past, let's say, an increased income. So sorry, I'm not explaining it properly, but I really want to explain it as well as I could. But so for example, what we noticed in Leyte is that what I observed, and actually what does happen in a lot of development programs, is that people are given jobs, and they get more income, but then because of the scarcity trauma, because of the poverty trauma, they are stuck in a shorter thinking mindset, and so they tend to spend the money that they make on things that are not long term. So it goes to liquor, because liquor is so cheap in the Philippines. It goes to cigarettes, um, and goes to all of these vices that actually keep them unhealthy. And so when they're unhealthy, they end up in this vicious cycle of making money and spending it on not on short term, uh, on very short term things. But if you are able to bring them to a level of health and a level of understanding through education, long term programs that help improve people's awareness about uh, about lifestyle choices, then there's a better chance for them to really be able to help themselves. So for example, a poor farmer would might have increased yield, but they'll go to the market and want to get rid of all of their produce to a trader, because the trader will be able to take on the risk of finding the end consumer that will pay at a higher price. But see, what happens here is because of the farmer who has short-term thinking is not able to progress from that point on, right? So even if you have increased your yield, even if you have increased your income a little bit, you get stuck at that point where there's a scarcity mindset, there's a short-term mindset, and they're not able to evolve into better entrepreneurs. Let's say something like that. There's also an increased problem of as we increase connectivity in the Philippines. Did you know that since 2016, there's been 300% increase in online abuse? And this includes bullying and it includes sexual abuse. And the more poverty there is, the more susceptible people are to these problems that arise out of a digital age. At the same time, the digital age can provide opportunities for people that have connectivity, that gain connectivity, but we are not able, but a certain level of access does not assure that they will be accessing proper information, right? There was an article that wrote about ABS-CBN losing their franchise, and now there's an information gap. And we're dependent a lot on Facebook and social media, which is not the perfect place to be able to access, the most accurate news.
Mm.
Which is why it's a good thing that you have your channel and you're able to reach a lot more people, and being able to curate information for them. So yeah.
I'm so curious. You said that there's a lot of traders. So uh normally when it starts out from the farmer, for example, sige, Baguio, lettuce, how much is it from the farmer? Then pag sa grocery, how much? I'm not familiar with the prices, so I don't really have any idea how it normally goes.
No worries. Yeah, no worries. Me also, I'm also still trying to understand this commodity, but I guess what I could talk about is tomato, for example.
Mm.
Tomato is a product that is in high demand all throughout the year, but there are seasons when tomato is more scarce than available. So at the start of the year, if you go to markets that don't practice fair trade, you could access tomatoes at 22 pesos or 24 pesos per kilo. Over time, though, as we enter the rainy season, farmers say that there's less yield, less harvest, and it's harder to harvest the tomatoes. And so prices have shot up to about 130 per kilo. So if you can imagine, if you're a particular restaurant with certain costs, with certain requirements for costs, then suddenly it does not make sense for you to acquire tomatoes at a higher price point. Um, and run your business still, right? So what we try to do is to establish relationships with farmers that are able, and farmer groups that are able to help farmers know what the market requires. So one of the reasons also why prices go up is because, or prices are erratic as opposed to stable, is because farmers don't really know who they'll be selling to, right? There's also the problem of when they hear another farmer sell chili at a high price, everyone's going to go into that same produce and expect that high price. But at the time that they harvest, prices would have gone down already because there would be too much supply. So it's really the lack of transparency from producer to end consumer. And so that's why direct to farm makes sense, because you're able to provide that information and collect that information.
When you do direct to farm, what does that do? It will lower the prices for consumers, or it will just make the margins bigger for the farmers?
margins bigger for the farmers, and you're able to assure that every step of the chain, the stakeholder provides a value, right?
Mm,
And then the produce is also fresher, and
got it.
also and it's also traceable. So traceable in terms of fair price and traceable in terms of where did the produce come from. You're
Mm,
also able to reduce. You're also able to decide how you can reduce carbon emissions from sourcing from farms that are closer to where you're delivering to.
got it.
Covers
So
a lot of things.
so basically the heart of the heart of fair trade really is just to help the farmers also, so that uh they don't get left out in whatever benefits that that they could get if they were the ones selling their own produce as well, no? So parang ganun yung underlying ano nun, that the wealth also gets distributed properly, that it's not just for a particular segment, but the ones who are doing all the work, the ones that are taking all of the it's harder to farm than to sell, eh. The ones that are taking also the time to be able to do all of this stuff, they also benefit from it.
Sure. I mean, food security really, because if our farmers stop farming, um,
Mm,
we wouldn't have any produce and we'd have to rely on imports. Actually, another problem is cheaper imports, just because we have like a crazy logistics scenario in the Philippines. And so some produce will come into the Philippines and they'll be much cheaper than local produce, and therefore they'll be more advocated, right? And so local produce are not able to be sold just because they're more expensive. And so we also, in our company, we try to raise awareness with people to be able to support local produce as opposed to imported produce. At the same time, I think we're also trying to understand our produce better now. For example, I know for a fact that restaurants actually love the Tagalog onion
mm,
as opposed to other countries. And so, but the thing is, what's stopping people from buying local onions is that it's just twice the cost of imported onion.
mm.
And so we're not able to also appreciate our own local produce in that sense. So there's a cultural factor for me also, because I think that if we support local produce, we are able to experiment with them more. A chef that will understand sigarilyas or patani can definitely do more things with that produce and develop Philippine cuisine. So related to this whole industry, to make it more sustainable is to also reinvigorate that industry and that culture that we have, that we love eating. Um, yeah.
Got it. Guys, let's support Nisha and her business. I'll put the link below on how you can order, be part, or at least get to know more and spread awareness on it. But before we end, can people know more about your company, your business as a whole, also, and how can they get in touch with you?
Sure, sure. So farmfetch.store is available online on a website, and then we're also available on Grab, Lazada, and Shopee. So what we're trying to do is really promote fair trade practice, wherein farmers are compensated, are given the right value for their work. At the same time, we like promoting awareness on being able to support local produce by appreciating it, by reinvigorating Philippine cuisine. And finally, we also would like to add, you know, the fact that beyond being able to pay fair trade, beyond being able to increase income, that this income will become, or this improved livelihood will become sustainable by giving access to education, because education is really the game changer in how to improve quality of life in communities, and to be able to evolve, let's say, the agricultural industry into um, adopting better technology um, and the like. Yeah.
Got it. So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Now we don't talk about farming as much here, and it's nice to hear more about this as well. And I think it's something that's very very relevant, especially where we are right now. And I think this whole pandemic has forced a lot of people also to consider other ways on how they can not just create food but also consume their food, that it madami akong nakita they did aquaponics in their own houses. Some of them that had yards started planting also. So I think it's timely also for where we are right now. So that's it. Thank you so much, Nisha Alicer, super yaman entrepreneur, but also food nerd also. All right. So thank you. Have a good day. Thank you so much, everyone. If you guys like this, you want more topics like this, let me know. Put it in the comment section. And guys, may isang request lang si Nisha. Request lang niya is you press the like button for the YouTube algorithm. But that's it, guys. See you all again soon. And thank you so much also to everyone who stayed up until the end to watch the video. So God bless and good day. And we're done. Tapos na.
Thank you, Marvin. You're always making me want to improve my communication skill.
Magaling ka naman.
More
Better nga in terms of presenting, speaking, and sharing. Better. Much, 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 much better. So, ako hindi magaling. Ako hindi
No,
magaling.
no, not at all. And thank you for the opportunity, really. I think I really want more people to know more about what we can do.
And it's an advocacy rin naman. You're helping this to become more sustainable to more and more people then. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Actually, it's very profitable. It can be very profitable if you have your own farm. And,
Oo naman, I have a lot of friends who are farmers. Sabi nila, if it's done right, pero farming is also scientific. Farming is something na pinag-aaralan. Pero if it's done right, maganda it's a good industry to be in. It's just that madami sa nagpa-farm, they use old practices pa. Kaya it's not as efficient daw eh. Pero I know some friends from Bukidnon. They're
yeah.
okay eh. Batangas, Pampanga area, they're okay. It's not just siguro systemic lang na everyone gets to benefit. Everyone gets to benefit from it also. So yun. Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Philippines, only certain parts are fertile actually, and that's why it's important to be able to create a more conducive environment to kind of regenerate our soils in other places. So, yeah, food security is going to be a big thing.
Yeah. True. Very true. Yeah.